On this episode of Using Daddy's Credit Card, we have this from IGN. Dune Part 2 proves that movie budgets have gotten out of control. If Denis Villeneuve can make sandworms work for less than $200 million, then so can you. Hold on a second here. Wait, just hold the phone, okay? I thought this was going to say that movie budgets have gotten out of control because $200 million is a lot of money. Are they alluding that you could spend less than $200 million? Godzilla Minus One had a budget of reported $15 to $12 million. And they made one of the greatest movies I've ever seen. Dune 2 was not one of the greatest movies I've ever seen. And for $200 million, you could have done a lot more with a lot less. So they're giving this movie praise for only spending $200 million on it. This part says, why do so many of these movies cost so much more but look so much worse than Dune? I don't know. I guess it just goes to the actors. Or maybe Hollywood is laundering money through their movies. I have no idea. But $200 million is a lot of money. Dune Part 1 was released back in 2021 with a $165 million price tag. That's a lot of money. Which is actually on the low end when it comes to comparable films of that year. It talks about how Marvel movies, Spider-Man No Way Home, Black Widow, Eternals, Shang-Chi, cost at least $200 million to start off with. I would imagine that a lot of these movies with these big budgets, it's because of how much they're paying the stars. And they're spending all that money to get them in the door, and then they don't have enough money for the rest of the movie. It's almost like with football, when a young quarterback does really, really well, and then they demand some kind of record deal, and then they get it, and then they have to start getting rid of the key players that made that quarterback great in the first place. Because with Dune 2, a lot of these people were pretty substantial names in Hollywood. I mean, Timothée Chalamet, you had Zendaya, you have Florence Pugh, Austin Butler, Javier Bardem, Josh Brolin. You even got Christopher Walken and Stellan Skarsgård. I think you could have gotten away with like 90% of that cast and gotten other people. And Dave Bautista was in it too. You didn't really need all these massive big name stars, and that's probably where a lot of this budget went to, just getting these people in the door. And I do wonder how much they paid Christopher Walken for this movie. He wasn't in it that long, and he really didn't need to be in it. You could have gotten literally anyone, someone of that age, to play this role, and it wouldn't have changed at all. Then it goes on to say, Dune Part 2 cost a little more, coming in at $190 million. I'm trying to think, from Dune Part 1 to Part 2, what was the difference in terms of things to add? Well, there was a lot more explosions. We got to see more sandworms. The fight scenes were very quick. Very, very quick. Especially the last big one at the end of it, before the knife fight. That was a very rushed fight scene. That could have easily gone on for 15, 20 minutes, but they really rushed it to like 5. So you probably saved a lot of money there, but... So an extra $25 million, did it really go to anything other than just hiring actors and actresses? You could do sandworms for a fraction of that cost. Especially sandworms that really aren't in the movie that long. And also, a lot of the sandworms, they were just under the sand for most of the movie. There were not many scenes where we really got to see the sandworms in action. They were just, again, under the sand, and then they popped up in random scenes later on. The budget uptick between movies appears to be largely COVID-related, at least according to Mary Parent, a producer on both films. When asked in an interview with The Wrap about how issues caused by the pandemic affected the sequel's production, she said, just the cost of goods in general and the amount of time to get them was certainly longer. I don't believe that at all. I don't think you spent an extra $25 million on just goods that took longer to get in, so you had to spend more money to ship them in faster, or just the price of things going up. $25 million, that's a big amount of money. You're telling me you couldn't do this at all with a smaller budget? Like, you look online and you see cosplayers do this for a fraction of the cost. So is the goal of Hollywood is just to spend as much money as humanly possible? Because again, I did not see $25 extra million worth of CGI and bigger and bolder. Yeah, there were a few scenes, I would say, maybe just the explosion happening as Paul's looking at the city being nuked. Yeah, that was a big-ass explosion, but at no point did I say, wow, this is an extra $25 million just for this scene alone. So you're spending this money on costume design? It just seems like COVID and the writer's strike is like the Hollywood cop-out now going forward. Everything that they do now, they could always blame these two things on. And people are going to go, oh, I guess that makes sense. It doesn't. It doesn't at all. You probably could have done this movie. You had the first one, $165 million. You could have probably done this movie with half that. The price went up, but I don't really see where it went to. Then it talks about The Flash's budget of $220 million, Ant-Man's budget of $193 million, and Indiana Jones: The Dial of Destiny with a budget of $295 million. And all those movies flopped in the box office and looked ugly. So yes, I guess there must be some credit to Dennis and the production team at Dune for making a movie that looked really great. But again, Godzilla has shown you guys up. So what do you guys think about that? Where do you think the budgets are going these days? Is it just going to the actors and I guess catering or whatever though? Or are they actually going to the production of these movies? Because again, $200 million is a lot of money. Like, for $200 million, you better be showing me the greatest CGI of all time. And I would say the best parts about Dune were the practical effects. Was the on-set locations. I'm glad that this whole movie wasn't filmed in a soundstage. I'm glad that we actually got to see these giant sand fields. I mean, it looked really, really beautiful. And most of all, you probably could have gotten rid of about 90% of these actors. Did we need Austin Butler for that? He was great, though. Don't get me wrong, though. But like, if I'm grabbing Austin Butler, I want to see Austin Butler. I don't want to see this guy that looks nothing like him. Like, did Zendaya really bring in the box office numbers? I mean, realistically, after watching Dune 2, could you have recasted her with anyone and this movie would not have lost a step? Like, did we need Florence Pugh? I don't think we did. I know she's like the it girl in Hollywood now, and I don't think you needed her. I don't think you needed Christopher Walken. You didn't need Dave Bautista for it. Do you think Dune 2 deserves praise because they spent, I don't know, $100 million less than the Marvels and other big budget things that went absolutely nowhere? Let me know what you think about that. Or more importantly, who could you have recasted in this movie to save a few bucks? Let me know what you think.